Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2025. And what a fantastic time to be a Liverpool fan. It's always a fantastic time being a Liverpool fan, innit? But just a little bit sweeter when top of the Premier League and top of the Champions League. We might be in for something very special this year. But anyway, let's get on to the preview for what is the biggest game of the season still. A game where the unexpected can happen and has happened in the past to both teams, but one where it's very rare that the two teams have been going in such different directions. We are flying and they are in free fall. As simple as that. I've got quite a lot of stats coming up just before we get into the tactics of the game. Look at the difference. We are top of the Premier League by 6 points with a game in hand. They're 14th. They're 23 points behind us. And they've played a game more. We have scored 45 goals, the highest in the league, and we've conceded 17, the joint best in the league. Man United have scored 21 and they've had 26 against. So we are plus 28 goal difference, they're minus 5. We've won 14, drawn 3, lost 1. They've won 6, drawn 4 and lost 9. It's taken us several seasons to lose 9. The last 6 games, so let's look at more recent with Amarin coming in. We've won 4 and drawn 2 for 14 points. They've won 1 and lost 5. This is all Premier League. Lost 5 out of 6. In terms of home record, we're top. We're the best home record in the division. In terms of away record, they're 14th. They've scored 8 goals away from home in 9 games. And the only one surprise is they've conceded only 10, which is actually one better than us. Same games played. And the second best defence in the Premier League at the moment. Behind, and you'll never guess this, Tottenham. Tottenham have the best defensive Premier League away record, somehow. But here's an interesting thing. Under Amarin, their last 3 away games, they lost 2-0 to Arsenal, they won 2-1 to Man City, and they lost 2-0 to Wolves. So they've actually conceded 5 in the last 3 away games versus conceded 5 in the 6 away games before that. So they're getting worse under him in terms of goals conceded away from home. Amarin's last 3 home games, home or away, played 3, lost 3, scored none and had 7 against. Against Newcastle at home in the last game, they had 1 shot on target. Against Wolves, when they lost 2-0 away, they had 4 shots on target. And against Bournemouth, where they lost 3-0, they had 7 shots on target. So they've had 12 shots on target in those 3 games. The Bournemouth one was 7 of them. And since then, in the last 2 games, they've only had 5. Liverpool's last 3 games, won 3, scored 12 and had 4 against. Against West Ham in our last game, we had 13 shots on target, more than they have had combined in their 3 games. We had 7 at home against Leicester and we had 12 against Spurs. We had 32 in total on target in the last 3 games. They've had 12. We've averaged 11 a game, they've averaged 4 a game. I would say that in the last 3 games, you have seen the best of Liverpool so far this season. And it's been great the whole season, but it's been even greater in these last few games. And you've seen the worst of Man United. They've been dismal all season, but they've been more dismal in the last 3. So, there's all the stats. But let's get into the tactics now. The 2 managers, they couldn't be any more different. You've got Arne Slot, who is just showing incredible tactical awareness, not just game to game, but within games. His tactical approach is so fluid, and what he does is he finds and exploits weaknesses in the opposition. So he just doesn't mechanically set up a team and say, right, you're going to be a rigid 4-3-3 and we're going to play that way, which, let's face it, lots of managers do. He has the ability to not just change it within a game, but before the game starts, he has a plan to exploit the weaknesses of whatever team that he's facing. And it's been very interesting that when he talks in interviews, he always knows so much about the other team. Yeah, every manager does that. Every manager studies another team, but I think he studies it in a different way. I think he does it thinking, I am going to set everyone up and I'm going to coach everybody to exploit exactly what this other team do. If they've got any weapons, we'll nullify them, but any weaknesses, and we're going to exploit them. And that was so evident against Spurs, and it was so evident as well against West Ham in the last game. It's fluid, it's expansive, and it's completely unpredictable as to what will go on during a Liverpool 90 minutes. A couple of examples of that is putting Luis Diaz up front. Now, Luis Diaz goes up front and causes mayhem, but you never know where he's going to be. It was interesting to see his heat map from the last game, and he was quite often on the left-hand side, but not as far as advanced as Gakpo was. And then he was breaking in and breaking across the lines. And then you've got the Szoboszlai effect, which is very interesting. I did a video the other week where I said that virtually every player had taken on board what Slot has coached them to do. You've seen so many players elevate their game because of it. And I said, Szoboszlai is one that doesn't seem to have got it yet. Well, he has now. And now you can see the effect that Slot is having on him. And again, in that Spurs game, he was unstoppable. And the way he was breaking from midfield, he's got such energy. And he was breaking through the lines. And quite often he was our furthest man forward in front of the front three. And it was just another example of what Slot does. Our midfielders becoming the most advanced player on the field while we're breaking forward. Curtis Jones has done the same. Also, how many times have you seen Robertson this season be almost the last man? He's in the box all the time. He headed one against the post. He's fired a couple over the top, but he's been there. The other day, we had Virgil van Dijk having the ball fed to him by Luis Diaz. So it's so fluid that I think it's bamboozling everybody. On paper, it's a 4-3-3. That's the way it will be shown at the start of a game. But in reality, it's not a 4-3-3. It's a 4-2-3-1. It's a 4-1-2-3, a 4-1-3-2, or it's a 4-1-1-4. And it's always changing. And it's remarkable to watch. I spend half the time now, as a fan, and half the time trying to analyse it, thinking, wow, what is going on here? Because it's unlike anything I've really ever seen. All of those formations I just mentioned are when we're going forward. When the opposition have got the ball, it immediately becomes a 4-5-1 or something close to a 4-5-1. Our advanced players will drop back in, and you'll often see Salah to a lesser extent, but you'll often see Diaz, Gakpo coming back in and helping out to block off any passing lanes from the other team. It's incredibly fluid, but as soon as we get the ball, bang, it's back to these fluid, different setups, all designed to exploit weaknesses. If you think back to Jurgen Klopp, and Jurgen Klopp's team was set up as a 4-3-3 with a very, very rigid midfield. And it worked brilliantly. We had major success with it. But it was Andy Robertson and Trent who were the creative outlets for the dynamic front three. The middle three were just highly technical, efficient, almost blockers. They rarely got goals and they rarely got assists. This is a big difference now. Our midfield is technical, they're fast, they've got incredibly good football and brains, all of them. They're creative, they're expansive, they're dynamic, and they can run all day. And it's such a weapon because you've already got a world-class front three, and you've already got the back five that won us the title. Let's get on to his opposite number, Ruben Amorim, or Ruben Interim, or Ruben Hammering, whatever name you want to use. He is the polar opposite. It worked in Portugal, so it's going to work in the Premier League no matter what. 3-4-3, doesn't have the players, they can't play the system, they're clueless, they're losing their confidence by the game, but now got it, you can't change it. And I've heard the pundits drive me mad. I've heard the pundits saying, well, you've got to give him credit because he's not going back to the old way that didn't work under Ten Hag. So at least he's trying something different. It's like there's only two ways. The old crap way or the new crap way. Not actually using a system that suits the players to get the best out of them. It's just, no, we're going to do 3-4-3 and that's it. I'm going to go back to Jurgen Klopp again for a second, because when Jurgen Klopp came in, he wanted to play heavy metal, high press, Gengham press football, but he couldn't because we didn't have the players. Look back to the first game we played against Spurs under Klopp and look at the players we had. He couldn't do it, so he didn't do it. Amarim's come in. At best, it's naive, but I would actually call it stupidity. It's stupidity to play a system that is alien to the players, where you don't have the legs for it, you don't have the players for it. And then, to add insult to injury, he plays the high-intensity midfield of Newcastle with Casemiro and Eriksen, the two elder statesmen of the team, and he got completely overrun. Yeah, it might have worked in Portugal, and yeah, you might eventually get the players to do it, but right now you're being schooled every week. So assuming they go 3-4-3 again, because he's already said, no, I'm not changing, you'll all keep asking me, but no. Remind you of anyone else in the Premier League who might have had some success in Scotland and Japan, but not so much in the Premier League, and who we just put 6 past recently? So it is likely that they will go 3-4-3, which means they are going to be playing 5-2-3, because they're going to have two midfielders following back to try and stop Mo and likely Gakpo or Diaz, but they're going to be forced back, which leaves only 2 in the middle against our 3 midfielders who have got greater legs, greater energy, greater technical skill than any 2 that they can possibly put in that midfield. At the same time, it isolates their front 3. So does it come as any surprise that their last 3 games they've scored none and they've conceded 7? Slot's going to have analysed this, and he is going to set this team up to exploit every single one of those weaknesses that Amarim is almost certain to put on the field. I'll go on to what I think the predicted lineup is going to be. I think the back 5 is going to be Alisson, Trent, Kwanzaa, Virgil, and then it's either going to be one of Tsimikas or Robertson. Might be Robertson. Should be. There's no reason. I know he's had a couple of moments of late, but he was excellent in the last game, apart from one mistake, and it got highlighted because he'd made a couple of others. But anyway, midfield, I would be very surprised if it isn't Gravenberch, who got taken off because he had 4 bookings, and he's played the whole season, and he's essential, so he's going to play. And then you're going to have McAllister and I think Szoboszlai, because I think Szoboszlai can do to Man United what he did to Spurs. So can Curtis Jones, but he's not quite as athletic as Szoboszlai, and he's not quite as gung-ho at driving through that defensive line. And Szoboszlai, he looked like he'd made it into a bit of an art form against Spurs, and I can see it being the same again, but we'll see. Up front, it's Mo for sure, and I think Gakpo, because once again he was taken off because of 4 bookings, and I think it's going to be Luis Diaz again to cause bedlam in the middle. Jota ready to come on at 60 minutes or whenever it is, to cause even more bedlam in their defence. And you've got the likes of Harvey Elliott as well who can come in. That's my starting 11. So, given all that, predictions. For any of you watching this who don't know, I have a Facebook group called YNWA Reds, same as this channel, and we have a poll for each game. And as of just now, we're still a couple of days away from the game, 61% of the votes have gone for a Liverpool win by 3 or more goals. Actually 24%, so almost a quarter of all the votes have gone for Liverpool to win by 4 or more. And actually almost 10% have gone for Liverpool to win by 5 or more. So that's how confident everybody is. The bookies, I've never seen this, never. It's 1-4 for Liverpool to win. It's 5-1 for Man United to get a draw, and they are 10-1 to win this game. 10-1 in a one-off game at Anfield between the two biggest of rivals. We cannot take it for granted, and Slot won't let them. So we can all be pumping our chest right now, but it matters when we get on the field. Well, they will play 10%, 20% more with more energy than they have, because they know what this game means. They got a 0-0 against all the odds a couple of seasons ago. So we have got to be at our absolute best, and we've got to take him to the cleaners. Having said that, I can't remember being more confident about how this game is going to go than I am right now. Might come back to bite me, but you've got to be confident given the form of both teams. And so my prediction is going to be that Liverpool win by at least a 3-goal spread. So there you go. I'll see you after the game, and hopefully I'll have an even bigger smile on my face than I've got right now. So all the very best again. Happy New Year. Join the Facebook group if you want. Subscribe to this one if you could, please. And you'll never walk alone. Ta-ra.